special guest in the building. Special guest in the building. Marty Beller, ladies and gentlemen, Marty Beller. The one and only. Do you rap? Because I heard you got fire bars. I was talking to Stu the other day and he told me you had some fire bars. You got bars on this right now? Well, go ahead, Marty. Just go ahead. Go off right now. Top of the dome. You got this. Just go off.
I don't know what you want me to talk about. I'm so hyped to be here.
You're rapping, right?
This is my version of rapping.
Oh, okay. I'm going to let you go.
You just interrupted me. I'm not going to try to rap. I'm just going to talk and say I'm excited to be here. I was so excited to reconnect with you, Damian, a few weeks ago. And it's so great to be here. And so great to meet Jacob. I feel like I already know you.
So nice to meet you.
Thanks for putting me on the spot immediately.
That's what it's all about.
I don't know what that was.
You'll find out very soon. You'll find out very soon.
But no, I would never proclaim to rap. I'll leave that to the masters.
If it makes you feel any better, Marty, I want you to know I do that to every single person who comes on this podcast. Regardless.
Every single one.
Well, I am thoroughly embarrassed, but I have no idea what just happened.
Well, you will have to see the podcast or listen even. You can even just listen to it. We're available on Spotify. Shout outs to Spotify for holding us down. Anchor is the platform that we push through. Thank you, Anchor. And YouTube, of course, for the video. Marty, once again, thank you so much for coming to hang out. Really, really appreciate you, man.
I'm honored that you asked me.
Man, the honor is mine. Thank you for taking time out of your busy life to come hang out. What's that poster over your right shoulder there? Point.
Which way? This way?
Is that your right shoulder or your left? It could be mirrored. I'm not sure.
This is my right.
Okay. So yeah, it says point.
Oh, it says Grace Point.
Okay.
It's a TV show that was on Fox Television that I composed the music for. It was on in 2014. It was a 10 episode murder mystery.
It's amazing.
Really super fun to work on.
That's incredible, man. Really incredible. It's cool to talk to real professionals on this podcast. I am very blessed in my journeys to have met some incredibly talented individuals. And ladies and gentlemen, Marty Beller is no doubt one of those. This gentleman has inspired me tremendously, and he has guided me much like a father. And in our New York days, or my New York days, I should say, he was very much like a father to me. Took me in under his beautiful wing, and I was the wind beneath his wings for a short year or two. Good times we had, Marty.
Great times, and I would be remiss if I didn't say that you inspired me greatly too. And brought a lot of happiness and joy to the music and the other stuff, like that handshake we did before going on stage when we did the show. That kind of made my sports basketball fanatic dreams come true of doing a cool handshake like the sports people do.
It was a moment. It was definitely us going through the
I don't feel like it had as much impact on you, or did it?
No, it definitely did. It was like I said, it was like going through the corridors before you step on the floor of the court, right?
Yeah, but at least what I learned from it, and I think you pointed this out at the time. It was difficult. We made this whole. There's no way I can't remember any of it, but we made this kind of, for me, difficult routine of handshakes that I could do, as opposed to the rapping that I could do. But it was difficult, and it kind of got your mind going before having to perform, which I thought was a really cool thing to do. It made me. I've always wanted a situation where before you go on stage, and I think there's some bands I've heard, I feel like I've read over the years that do this, that you could have like a setup, at least for me, at least a drum set, or maybe the whole band setup or something, beneath the stage or backstage. Obviously, this would need to be a whole, a whole setup that might be difficult. But anyway, in my dream about it, before going on stage, you could like just totally get your whole crazy system going by going wild on the drums, or just get the blood flowing, so that you're like, when you get out on the stage, you've already throttled up, if you know what I mean.
No doubt. So this was a real tune-up for you. This whole.
Yes.
I never thought about it like that.
So what exactly was it? I'm curious.
There's a video of it.
Is there? You have it?
Yeah, I do.
Oh my gosh, you got to
You
send
didn't
that.
see that private video that I did?
I think yes, I remember that. Yeah.
And there's a clip within that. Of course, it's not a public video.
But try to explain it to Jacob, I guess, if you don't mind.
Essentially,
I'm just imagining you guys on the side of the stage before the show starts, and you guys just do this like really kind of complicated handshake, but it looks like it was probably good, and then you just run on stage right after. That's what I'm imagining right now.
That was pretty much it, right?
But the cool extra bit, that is true, because what was we were doing a show, this brilliant show called The Total Bent. We were doing it at the Public Theater in New York City, and it's a setup where the stage, I know that there's a proper name for this, but the stage, the seating is around the stage, so the stage is sunken, I think, is it called there's a word for it, and I'll get it wrong, but the stage is sunk, so the audience, it's a classic way theater is often done, where the audience is in the round.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. Because this is a lot on my mind these days, I'm gonna keep coming back to the basketball arena theme. Yeah. Forgive me for that. But so it was like that, and so there were a few different entrances, and so one of the entrances was like coming into an arena, so it gave it, even more of that feeling.
That's amazing.
It definitely did have that shape to it, and the whole stage had entrances surrounded. The perimeter was surrounded with ways to enter. Of course, in most shows, you have to visualize different exits and entrances.
Damian, I got a question.
Yes,
I got a question for you, Damian.
Yes, sir.
Out of all the arenas that you've performed at, what's been your favorite arena?
My favorite arena. Marty, does anything pop in your head?
I mean, the first, it's a tough question, because I will just then want to list so many places. Often with that question, the first place that pops into my mind is the Fillmore in San Francisco. It's just a really magical, special place in the,
I've always wanted to go to the Fillmore. I've never been there. I've always wanted to.
It's kind of perfect. There are a lot of kind of perfect venues that I feel very fortunate to have played at. but a lot, so that's one. But a lot of my favorite places to play are like a really smaller side. Again, the Fillmore is like this grand, beautiful history of rock and roll. There's photos and hundreds of posters for shows that have been there. It just lives up to everything for me that I imagined it would be. And every time you're there, it kind of lives up to it again and again. Again, as far as I'm pretty sure, as far as I've heard, the acoustics are great. The audience, it feels really big, but they're also feel kind of right on top of you. This great combination. The stage is great. Yeah, it's just the people are great. It's just, again, there are a lot of places around the world that I would give this similar description to. It's just an iconic place that comes to mind. But for me, a lot of favorite kind of places and types of shows for me are when it's a crazy small place and the audience is really almost like
Yeah.
almost on the stage. I really like that feeling as well. But Damian, what comes to mind for you?
Man, it's such a hard question because there's, like you said, there's just so many memories attached to all these venues and all of these shows and all these tours. It's really hard to call like what's my favorite one. But I think instinctively I wanted to say Red Rocks was pretty magical. The visual of that, the sensation of being on stage and seeing a crowd really tower over you. And then the venue itself was also magnificent. The inside, the architecture, and everything's really molded out of the rocks and carved into the green room and stuff. Like there's rocks in there that you could like climb into. That's kind of my vibe. I'm real into mountains and stuff, anyways. And, just my whole aura kind of centers around that type of nature and that just Mount Lemon, it was a very special place for me when I was at the University of Arizona.
Okay.
Really special place for me. So, yeah, I kept thinking, and on instinct, I went to Red Rocks, and I circled around many places in my mind's eye, like, oh, what's really my favorite venue? But I think that's the one. As far as like, what's like the most memorable, what felt like the most special, that was probably it. And I think that's geographically speaking too, because once again, like Marty said, sometimes that intimate show with a very small house where you can really reach out and touch the crowd and they're a lot closer. It has a completely different feeling, or there could be a memory attached to it that night. Something may have happened that really makes you just, I don't know, you really just really love that. And it's a hard question. That's a hard question. That's almost harder than what's your favorite album. That's a tough question. What's your favorite venue that you performed at?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. So
I've always
Jacob,
wanted to. I've
go
always
ahead.
wanted to go to Red Rocks though. I see pictures, I see videos of artists performing, and I've seen a lot of some artists will do those YouTube backstage perform like not performances, but like just show like what they're doing backstage. And I've always seen like what you're describing, how it's sculpted out into the rocks. And everyone that I've heard, everyone I've met who's seen someone perform there, or like even people who have been back there on stage, everyone says it's so beautiful. Like it's kind of on my bucket list. I definitely want to visit Red Rocks, especially when all this is over in the world right now. If I ever see a show, I might just plan out a show just specifically to go to the Red Rock venue, because I think for me that's number one that I've always wanted to visit because I hear so much about it. And I think I'm gonna have to now because that just made me, you describing that made me so happy, and instinctively I just wanted to like book a trip. I was like, you know what, I just want to do it because that's definitely on my bucket list.
That's Colorado, if memory serves me right, I believe, right, Marty? Red Rocks, Colorado.
I haven't been to Red Rocks, but
Oh man, I
is
think
it?
it's Colorado.
I think it is,
I
right?
think it is. Yeah,
I think
I'm
it
pretty
is.
sure it is.
Yeah, great place, Colorado, and that might have even been the first time I visited Colorado. And of course, they have legal activities there, so really cool spot. I'm down with Colorado. It's a cool vibe.
I love that area of the country. This sort of like the Colorado, Utah.
Hmm.
Arizona.
I was gonna say Arizona. Yeah,
Don't they
that
have like the four corners like you can go to where the country or the states are like
Oh, really?
connected? Yeah, I'm pretty sure they do.
Yeah, and you have the the altitude, uh, which I've played, concerts in that geographical area, and you haven't had time to get acclimated, and it's kind of a trip that is sort of in the middle of the. I've experienced like in the middle of the show, all of a sudden, like, oh, I'm
Fatigue.
now I feel right again.
Oh, yeah.
Like I'm, why it's happening, but you're still like, wow, I'm, not, what's happening.
Yeah.
I thought I was in
Yeah.
shape or whatever,
Yeah.
and then it just flips. It's so that's a singular experience.
So let's talk about your experience, Marty, for the listeners out there. You have played in many amazing bands, and you're currently still in many amazing bands. You're really doing it, my brother. And like I said, that's an inspiration. Because what I admire so much about you is, you are a true living, breathing professional musician, and you have the legacy to vouch for it, and you're able to support your family through that. That's such a beautiful thing. That's everything I want to be.
Well,
So
I want to say to that yes, but I want to give my wife uh, huge props in that area too, because she is a brilliant businesswoman who has her own business in the publishing world, and
amazing.
it's beautifully a beautiful collaboration that we have as far as having a family and
That's amazing.
supporting
I
the
didn't
family.
know that.
So
It's
yeah,
your wife's name is Jill, correct?
yeah.
I didn't know Jill was into publishing, and you
Oh,
may
yeah.
have told me that a long time ago, and I just
I'm sure. Yeah.
it didn't click. Well, what an amazing team! You got the
Well, yeah.
writer, the multi instrumentalist, and the publisher, the savvy copyright, knowledgeable,
Yeah.
renowned.
She's
Wow,
she's a literary agent, so she represents many authors, many wonderful and brilliant authors.
that's
And
incredible. So this is literature and audio, or just books?
well, these days you often will sell a book's audio rights. That's part of either that's a separate deal or part of the deal. So yeah, those are all, but selling the book, developing the book, all
Mhm.
of that stuff, that whole process from start to finish. Is
I know
what
we're jumping all over the place, but this
yeah.
is such a nice
But I
journey
wanted,
here.
I love it.
because I'm so proud of her, and it's so important what she does. You know, it's forgive me for jumping in and just saying,
No,
that it's a
it brings up ideas for me, and I wondered.
collaboration.
Leads me to ask, pardon my interruption. Have you ever wrote a book?
Myself?
Yes.
No, I would say similar to the rapping. No, I have not. I have not wrote a book.
Well, you were kind of rapping, for the record. I think when you hear it, you're gonna be like,
I
okay.
was gonna
You
get
definitely had a flow.
I was gonna get somewhere truly embarrassing, and then maybe luckily for me, you interrupted.
Many interruptions. Well, we might have to change the name of this episode to interruptions and Marty Beller.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I'm
We'll
excited
see.
about the
Episode 25.
excited about the big marquee there. You know,
Yeah, I got this thing blown up at Kinko's in Egypt. It's very expensive. So they're gonna have to redo it because we gotta add the interruptions part.
Yeah.
Rewind. When did you link up with There Might Be Giants? 1998?
They might be giants. They might be giants.
They Might Be Giants.
No, it's okay. About the first show I ever played with them was in the year 2000.
2000.
And then I joined the band as their drummer in 2004.
Amazing. And before that, what was your journey?
What other
were you on to?
What other bands? And
I'm just curious. Leading up to that, what led you to them? I want to know your history. I don't know if I've ever really asked you.
Yeah. I mean, again, I was fortunate to be involved in a number of different great bands. Around that same time, I met Stu and Heidi.
Amazing.
Now 21 years ago, in 2000, I met Stu and Heidi. So started playing with them, in many different incarnations. First thing I did was what was called Stu's solo album, Guest Host. And that was just really serendipitous. We connected for a gig at the Knitting Factory, and for me, it was just kind of love at first sight with both of them and their music. And they asked me to play on their record, and it's been a pretty wonderful 21-year relationship of, that's how I met you. And, we've been all over the world with them as far as, and then, before that, I was for a time in this great band called Ivy. I toured with a number of artists, really great, two great singer-songwriters, one named Daniel Cartier, one named Michelle Lewis. Bunch of different bands in the 90s. Before that, I had my own band called Meow.
Amazing.
And we had one record that came out called Goalie for the Other Team. You can still, I think, find it on wherever you find music. And so really proud of that record. And that was...
I want to check that out. One more time on the name and the tip.
Meow. Yeah. And so when we toured when we toured in 1995, our record came out. And when we toured, our guitarist was Dan Miller. And Dan Miller eventually became the guitarist for They Might Be Giants.
Right.
And he introduced me to Danny Weinkauf, the bass player for They Might Be Giants. I need, for some reason I need to do the motion for bass. Yeah. So Dan Miller is the guitarist for They Might Be Giants. Danny Weinkauf, the bassist. Okay. He doesn't really play like this. Anyway, I'm getting really bogged down in the hand motions. Anyway, so it's through them that I was connected with the band, and again, eventually, after working with them off and on for a number of years, I became the drummer in 2004. And
growing up, was drums your first instrument?
Yeah. I started drum lessons when I was 6 years old.
Wow.
Amazing.
Yeah. And I cannot, this always makes me say that I'm so grateful to my parents, because as far as I know, that's all I was ever into, all I ever wanted to do. And my parents heard that, and when I was 6, they asked around and found a teacher in the area. His name's Chet DeBow, and I ended up studying drums with Chet from that point when I was 6 to when I graduated high school.
Wow.
From when I was 6 to when I was 18, and we are still very close friends. He's just a huge part of my is a huge part of my life. Was a huge part of my growing up and becoming a drummer.
That's an incredible name.
Chet DeBow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got a nice ring to it. Yeah.
It's charismatic.
He is. Yeah, he's charismatic.
Chet DeBow. Sounds like a Star Wars character.
Oh, really? What would that Star Wars character be doing? Like where in the story would that character be?
Well, he's definitely a bounty hunter. And he's definitely, after the Empire has fallen, he has risen, Chet DeBow. And he sports a bowcaster, oddly enough, which he found at a great Wookiee war, scavenging about.
What's a bowcaster? I love that.
A bowcaster is the weapon that Chewbacca holds.
Oh, should I? Wow. Okay, so it's my first mark against me. I said to you, I am into Star Wars, but not on that level.
Let's talk about it. Jacob, have you seen The Mandalorian?
No, I haven't. I've watched a few episodes with some friends, but I've never watched the entire first season. And I heard the second season is absolutely crazy.
Are you into Star Wars, Jacob?
I'm not the biggest Star Wars fan. I've seen some of the movies, but I couldn't tell you like the whole timeline or anything like that.
So you don't really care about the spoilers that we might talk about?
No, I already know what happened at the end of the second season of Mandalorian. I watched it, even though like
Spoiler alert, listeners! Spoiler alert!
Big spoiler alert. This spoiler alert. It's a huge. Hey, you invited me on, so I'm just gonna keep like throwing us totally off the topic.
Do what you want to do.
For my own.
This is your show.
My own agenda. That I will tell you. That one of the many ways that I drive people around me absolutely crazy is that I monomaniacally will not find out anything, if I can help it, anything about something I'm interested in seeing. If I'm, when we used to go to the movie theaters, if a preview came on of a movie that I knew, I was going to say, I can tell you how you do it. If you put your fingers in your ears, well, first of all, your eyes are your memory system. So if you don't see something, you generally won't remember it, but that's not enough for me. So I will close my eyes, put my head down in a full theater, put my hands in my ears. That's not enough. When you have your hands in your ears, you then need to be talking. If you're talking while your hands are in your ears, you can't hear anything. So anyway, that's one of the that is on the scale of the way it annoys people. I would say, again, Jill, she puts up with this. She knows it's going to happen. She knows if again, a movie that I sometimes you don't realize it's a preview coming on, and then you have to act fast, and that can create a little stir. But it's more people like this talking about something, because sometimes it takes you a while to see something, and these days there's so much cool stuff to see, and it's like, oh, how that series ended, or how that episode ended, or yes.
Well,
but
to be 100% honest with you, Marty, I'm the exact same way. I mean,
not to I was just going to say that.
Not to the point where people are
this
like,
is what I want to talk about.
I don't get to the point where somebody might look at me like, oh my goodness, he's doing that thing again because he doesn't want to see this trailer. But I will close my eyes and
Yeah.
I will look away, and I might have to do a hum or something if the music's
Yeah,
too loud.
humming is what I do. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's
for
good. That's
Star
good.
Wars, I just
But what?
have to do that.
Yeah, it's scary out there, and I am so. We watched The Mandalorian, which is a great example because the ending was so fun, was so exciting, and we, watched it definitely. I just remember, you know what I saw online? I saw people thanking. Did you see this? There was a thing on on Twitter. People were thanking the makers of it. They're like, "Thank you for that. Thank you for that." And so I was like, "Oh, there's all that. I gotta get away." I
Right.
went.
I
Yeah,
ran away as much as I could.
yeah,
I saw any Mando talk
yeah.
because I was even late. I
Mm.
just binged it literally I started maybe last week, and I finished season 1, and then I watched all of season 2 within maybe like 2 days. And by the
Wow.
time they got to the end of season 2, I was like, hell yes, this is what I'm talking about. I could see why people were so thankful because
Yeah.
it's the first time in a long time Star Wars has really kind of captured that essence of cool and just real Jedi dopeness that you don't really see too often in this new Disney franchise, which many would say is over campy or predictable.
Mm.
I can't say Mandalorian was ever really predictable. Even when I saw the X-wing, I didn't think it was who I thought it was. Not
I
until
yeah. I'm not good at knowing what the heck is going on. I'm
Mhm.
sure. I actually listened to I've heard listened to a podcast of people talking about it. Uh, and clearly people who are really deep into it, their minds started working. But luckily for me, I was like, what? I don't know what's happening.
yeah.
Something cool's happening, but I don't know what it is.
Well, when she said, "Oh, one X-wing," I was like, "Uh-oh." Like, but I was kind of like, "No." But then I kind of thought about, the CGI stuff they were doing, and I was like, "Well, maybe." And that's all we'll say about that, I guess. That might have been spoiling enough there. But
But all right, we're gonna keep it. Yeah, I think based on
yeah, let's keep it
based on what
PG, kids,
well based on what we just you know revealed about ourselves, it would be pretty hypocritical to then say, okay, but we're gonna tell you exactly this crazy exciting thing that happened.
That's very true.
That's very true.
That's very true. Let me give you one of those, drum man.
Oh, nobody told me about sound effects.
What sound effects?
You're just dropping beats.
Yeah, that was I got the set right here.
Okay, I got one right here.
No, I'm not dropping beats. I'm dropping bombs. Just
Walked
kidding.
into it.
Which brings us to our final 5 minutes of this portion of the podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for listening. Marty Beller, ladies and gentlemen. Marty Beller in the house. We're going to do this again, another round, if you would have us, our special guests. Is that okay with you, Marty? Do you have another
Oh,
round available?
yes. I feel like we're just scratching the surface of the important issues.
Amen. Amen.
No, right. Seriously, I am truly honored to be here, and it's so fun to be with you too.
That's
Thank
cool,
you.
man. It's unfortunate that this is how we have to be with each other, but at the same time, there's an ounce of magic about this age of communication that we're living in, right?
Mm,
Isn't there something kind of nice about being able to go to Kinko's in Egypt and getting this nice thing blown up with your name on it, and then bringing you to my world with my friend Jacob, my young brother, who I've really been inspired by almost,
Thank you.
just as
Thank you,
much as
bro.
you in a
Can
way. Yes,
can I ask how you two know each other?
Jacob, you want to take that?
It was just like um I saw him on Twitter, and I saw he was on the song Black Spider-Man, and I loved what he was doing on it, and I just was like looking at his Twitter, reading through it, and I saw him on the Everybody documentary, and I was just like, I just used to tweet at him a ton, and we just started talking. I follow him on Instagram, and it was honestly through social media. Like, it's kind of ironic because it's almost what he was saying in this day and age of what we're doing right now. Like, how it kind of sucks that we're distanced like this, but when we could be in person. But at the same time, that is how we met, even when it wasn't like this. That is how we got connected, and we just started talking, and from there it was just like slowly we just kept talking and talking, and now it's just we're here.
That is, I love it. I love it.
Yeah, and to
I mean,
add to that, this gentleman is a bit modest, but he has a incredible mind and an incredible heart, which he really wears on his sleeve throughout this world that we're living in, this age of communication world, this little thing we know as the internet,
Thank you.
this place we call the World Wide Web.
well, I'm excited to learn more about this.
Yeah.
About
And
this.
he's just an inspiring cat. So I had to bring him on for season 2. I thought this would be a great opportunity for him, and he's knocking it out the park. He's doing extremely well. I'm very happy and thankful to have him on. So when we come back, gentlemen, we're going to open up the conversation of mental health, and maybe we'll talk about some more music, ladies and gentlemen. And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, music and mental health with your hosts, Daddy and that boy Jacob. On the rise, Jacob. On the rise.
What it
Got something
do?
coming at you. You know what I'm talking
Yes.
about? And our special guest, ladies and gentlemen, Marty Beller in the house. Marty Beller, once again, thank you so much for hanging out. So you heard the beat this time, didn't you? You didn't hear it last time. Little do you know what's gonna happen. What's gonna happen? What is gonna happen, gentlemen? What is gonna happen? Do you ever feel like thinking about what is gonna happen affects your mental health?
All the
Marty,
time.
you want to take it first?
Sure. Well, it does all the time. Yeah. Because I'm definitely someone who can grab onto a thought and it's like, you know, the wheel can go. The wheel can go really go and go and go and go and go. And that really can just distract you from everything, from certainly from feeling good, you know, because they're like the anxiety, real or imagined, doesn't really matter, you know, and the unknown. I'm definitely someone who I don't love to think about the future. Not that I'm like all, you know, oh, I'm so zen. I'm just, you know, day at a time at all. Not. Don't get me wrong. Not at all like that. I wish I could be. Um, but yeah, I think it's sort of part of being, you know, a musician where one of the greatest parts about it is every day can be so different. You can be doing, you know, working on something on a Monday, a different thing on a Tuesday, different, you know, you don't have often you don't have a set schedule, and you don't, uh, and that is something that can be really exciting about being a musician, that there's always something new happening. There's always a break in the routine. And that also is at the same time a really daunting part, because sometimes you're like, I don't know what's gonna be, as you say. I don't know. I don't know where. And but wow, you know, I'm not the first person to say this at all, but a lot of people have said this. this indescribable head spinning year that we are all, that we've all gone through and still experiencing it. It's certainly, I feel very fortunate within it, but it certainly like screeched everything to a halt to where you sort of had to just hopefully be able to take care of yourself for
Yeah.
today and tomorrow, and
Yeah, definitely changed the way we all view ourselves, because I think this last 365 days has really forced us all to take a look at ourselves, because we've had so much time with ourselves, and a lot of people aren't maybe able to cope with that, unfortunately, because you got to think about the type of person that is out there who is always going somewhere, always doing something, or always at some club or at some restaurant or seeing some friend. To take that type of individual and force them to really focus on themselves or deal with themselves is a big challenge, you know.
well,
Luckily, go ahead.
no, I'm sorry to interrupt, Damien. I should
I was
put
just
myself
gonna
on mute.
say,
You finish. You finish.
luckily, I am one of those type of artists or people who doesn't mind just being alone, who doesn't mind just kind of being in the zone, my zone, and oh, what I want to do today doesn't necessarily have to involve a physical approach to another person. It could be me in complete solitude, or I can utilize this amazing thing known as the World Wide Web, as I've already gone through before. But what were you gonna say?
I was going to say, and I want to hear Jacob's answer to the
Of
open-ended
course.
question you started with. But I am someone addicted to looking forward to things. Um, and that could be that could be of the, that could be like today. Oh, cool! I get to be on this podcast. That's that kind of gets my blood flowing to something bigger or whatever. But in the in the normal course of things before this year, that was sort of kind of like cat and mouse game of highs and low, sort of highs and
Mm-hmm.
lows and whatever. You have something you look forward to, you're good.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have something to look forward to. Oh no, what's happening? I'm flailing about. Oh no, and that's an ongoing challenge. And yeah, that is certainly accentuated in this time. As you say, having to reevaluate that equation.
So I wrote this down while you guys were talking. So I was writing this down so I don't forget. Because Marty, you brought up kind of like along the lines of like as an artist in music, and then Damien, you brought up as a pandemic, like how we might look at the future. And I could see it in both terms, because I think the pandemic kind of humbled everybody, because it made people stop and live in the moment. Like you can't plan any more forward. Once we all went into quarantine, once everything shut down, there was nothing more than living in the moment. And I think my biggest takeaway from thinking what if was, well, there is no what if. The only thing that is if, like the only thing that's guaranteed is like the moment. And that's what I learned from the pandemic. But for me right now, I've been making a ton of music over the last 2 months. And I'm thinking like, well, what's gonna happen when I drop this? Or like, what if I do this and that? And I'm like, it doesn't really matter. Like it comes back to the pandemic lesson almost. You just have to live in the moment, make sure you're doing everything right in this moment, and anything that could be in the future, it will be solid because of the time that you've taken in this moment to make sure that it is solid. So I think that's my biggest thing, is living in the moment, making sure that right now in this moment, yes, there is stuff in the future to look forward to, but it won't be there unless you really capture the moment and make the most of this moment in order to set yourself up for that future.
Yeah, man. I definitely hear what you're saying. I feel like it was really easy to get obsessed about the future in 2019, 2018. Something happened in me for the summer in 2020 where I just kind of let go. I think going into 2020, I had so many plans. Of course, I wanted to drop the album. It was supposed to drop in the spring, early summer. And as the summer approached in 2020, it's 2021 now, as the summer was approaching on the horizon, I just remember feeling like, how can I change this outcome? How can I alter this multiverse that I am being restricted in? There's got to be something that I can do to get another outcome. And there wasn't. There wasn't anything anyone could do. Like so many others in this world, 2020 just completely plans up. It just took it to another level, just really ripped us all a new one, unfortunately. And we just had to deal with it. But because of that, like I said, 2018, 2019, it was very easy to obsess over the future. Very easy to, oh, I want this. I can't wait for this to happen and plan this and plan that. 2020, something happened in the summer. I was like, you know what? Whatever. Whatever happens is what's going to happen. And like you said, Jacob, you need to be in the moment. What do we have right now? What do you have right now? So much more important than what you want next year, I think. Hard concept to grasp for many, but it was very hard for me to understand that prior to what's been going on. But 2020 was a big reminder to me of what is actually important. Followers aren't actually important. What's more important than that is family. Can you get your family to follow you?
Yeah.
That's a tough one there. Those are the numbers that I need, and I'm talking about this family right here. I'm not even talking about outside of these quarantine walls. That's enough of a challenge for me. Get get that following right. And that's all I really need. Because, what if the solar storm came and just wiped out all the bank accounts and wiped out iTunes and Spotify and just the internet just whoosh, wiped out. All we got is our vinyls and our instruments and our community. At that point, you know, Twitter, Instagram, it was all for nothing. It was really all for nothing. And in a way, it is all for nothing. It's not really important in the grand scheme of things, in the grand scheme of this game we call life. But 2018, 2019 engineered the human brain into thinking that life lives on these screens. Life is Instagram. And there's still people today that I know that won't be happy unless their Instagram is going a certain way. And I'm like, wow.
Just I think it's weird the way sometimes life lines up because literally 5 minutes before I joined our Zoom session, I was recording a song and it was about quite literally what you're just talking about. It was about social media, and I was just saying how It's just really weird how it lines up because everything you just said was everything that I was writing down and saying, and it's like full circle right in my face right now, and I love it. I just think that's so crazy how the universe and life lines up like that sometimes.
That's that. What do they call that? That synchronicity. Is that the word? Marty might be able to help me.
That I can sing. Synchronicity. Am I aging myself right there?
Is that a song? Is that a real song?
It's by the Police.
Okay, so you got me there. Shout out to Sting.
Yeah, well, Sting and Stuart Copeland and Andy Summers.
Oh, see, I like that. See, that's how you know he's a real music man. It says, well, wait a second. Don't forget the Police.
Yeah. Check that track out. Damian.
What?
Jacob, check. If you haven't heard the track Synchronicity, the whole record is perfect, but yeah, that track.
Was the album called Synchronicity?
It was, and the title track, and there's Synchronicity and Synchronicity 2.
Is there something like black and white and kind of like rayish about the album art? Kind of looks like
there's like red, yeah, there's stripes.
Yeah.
Stripes, and
I know exactly what you're talking about. I have heard it in my early days.
I can't believe I've manipulated this conversation to talk about another of my favorite things, the Police. But
let's talk about
the album. It's the album that Every Breath You Take is from. That song you guys have heard. Yes?
Yeah.
Of course.
I know a few songs by the Police. My dad used to listen to the Police a lot.
Oh, your dad. Oh, yeah. Jacob.
Yeah.
Jacob, young. You gotta
understand. I'm young. I'm a youngster. But I still know all these.
We're old. We're 49. So he's a lot younger than us. You gotta remember that.
I'm more than 49. I'm 53.
Oh, I thought you were younger than that.
Sorry. No, yeah,
I was gonna put you on my level. I thought you were about 49.
No, I'm a wise old man.
I'm trying to get on your level. So let's go there on those favorites while we're there, because this is music and mental health. Well, we can get back into the mental health very soon. But you're stranded on an island, Marty Beller, Jacob, and you can only take one vinyl with you. I know, Jacob, you're just getting into the vinyl world, but Marty, you've been in the vinyl world.
It had to come out on vinyl, or it's any record.
Preferably a vinyl that you owned. I'm gonna go ahead and give Jacob.
Vinyl.
Go ahead.
I got the vinyl Synchronicity. I'll take that.
That's your pick.
It's definitely up there. I mean the previous Police record before that, Ghost in the Machine, that's always kind of been my standing favorite. It's just right now we're talking about Synchronicity, so that's kind of.
I would have to say for me, I don't have this on vinyl, but I wish I had a vinyl, and I wish I had a vinyl player, and I wish I had this on vinyl. But I went over to my brother's house on Christmas, and I walked in his house, and he had the Eagles' greatest hits playing. I didn't even know he listened to the Eagles. And I was like, no way you have this. I didn't even know you listened to the Eagles. And he's like, yeah, it's amazing. And we literally just sat down in his house for probably like an hour. And it was just in the background. And I think just for that alone, I would probably take the Eagles' greatest hits. I love the Eagles, probably probably my favorite band of all time. And it was definitely one of those moments, one of those memories that I've already made with that vinyl. And I don't even have it, but if I ever have it, I'll always think of that memory when I listen to it. So probably that one.
I lost you, Dame.
Oh, I think you're muted, Dame.
I wanted you guys to keep riffing.
Other records?
I mean, I would do that. Maybe Frank Sinatra's greatest hits too. I've heard that one on vinyl, but I would still say the Eagles, honestly.
Jacob, you should go out and get that on vinyl. There's nothing stopping you. I mean, maybe resources, but
the only thing that's stopping me is that I know if I get a vinyl player, I'm just gonna want all the vinyls in the world.
Bro.
And I'm gonna burn just a ton of holes in my pockets, just spending money on vinyls left and right. I already know it's gonna happen. That's the only thing stopping me is I know, because I already get CDs because I love CDs. But I know if I get vinyls, I will have like a vinyl addiction almost. I know I'll just love it so much.
This makes you too a wise man, Jacob, and perhaps we should change this podcast name into Three Wise Men, because vinyl addiction is a very serious, dangerous hobby. And
Well, Damien, we have our coffee shop opening, our vinyl coffee shop. You remember that?
we talked about that. Was that on the podcast?
Yeah, it was on the podcast.
Let's do it. I'm still down. Totally down.
So Marty, me and Dame were talking about vinyls before, and we were saying how when you walk into coffee shops now, it's kind of just you sit down and they always have like certain music's going in the background. But we were also talking about how places like Mel's Drive-ins, where you have like the jukebox, how they don't really have that anymore. We were saying a concept like, what if there was a coffee shop you could walk into and it was almost like a jukebox maybe, but something along that lines, where you could like pick your own vinyl to play, like your own songs off the vinyl to play. And it was just a store with just coffee people could come to, and you heard vinyl. There was vinyls everywhere. It was like,
And what about, and I don't know if this is what you're saying, but to me, if you really got everyone in the communal feeling about it, I think it would be great if you're, and I don't know if, I'm not a coffee drinker, but and so I don't, in fact, I've never had a cup of coffee in my entire life. But again, I don't want to get us totally off. Yes, it's true. But you don't want it. It would be redundant. You don't want me. You don't want me and coffee. That just anyway. But so what if you're there and you take the record off the shelf and you put it on, and somehow there becomes this flow in the place, that's what you do, and you have to, you take care of the records, and everyone kind of has that tacit agreement that
it would definitely be authentic. I mean, I think it would attract a lot of people. I would do it. I mean,
I
don't even
cool thing,
I don't even own vinyls or anything like that, like a vinyl player, but I would still do it because, I mean, when you look at what attracts people to Starbucks, it's like the comfortability, everything that they have. And I think there's something about the nature of just vinyls within themselves that makes everyone just feel comfortable. It's just, I don't think there's a downside to vinyls. When I don't think I've ever heard someone say like, "Oh, don't buy or don't put this vinyl on." Like, I don't think there's one downside to having a vinyl. I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all.
Oh, yeah, that, I mean, among my most cherished experiences growing up, sort of the going to the concerts was one huge part of it, and then having those listening sessions with records when a new record came out, rushing to the record store again. I'm 53, so I experienced that. But just hanging out, listening to music, with the records. It's obviously I'm not someone who's like, oh, it was better before, or whatever we're talking about. It's better to do vinyl than that. No, I don't agree with that. I don't, to me it's, but so, now you have playlists, and my gosh, we're, at our disposal, at our fingertips. We're listening to every possible song we can possibly think of. But I think those are connected. Like the playlists, you just were making the playlists. It took longer. You're not pressing a button or whatever, but you're like, oh, check this record out. Let's put this track on. Let's listen to this side.
Do you prefer a playlist or an album, Marty?
Well, it depends on who I want to be here. And I guess if I want to be like the opinionated person that I would most often be, I've always felt the album was sacrosanct. Like I never, I mean, you Jacob, you said the Eagles' greatest hits was
Yeah, to me.
yeah.
But I know the
But-
Eagles have
So I
albums.
don't want to disparage because with all due respect, and it's always because it's partly because I like to have opinions, but I was always someone against the compilation, the greatest hits. I mean, there's been exceptions where bands, I don't know, it's curated a certain way or whatever. But anyway, in general, I've always been like the album, that's the work, that's when it happened. That's what you have to experience from start to finish. You need to know the whole thing. You need to experience the whole thing. So I think that was my really kind of really really strong opinion up until a certain point where everyone around me my kids and everyone, we all started listening to music generally in a different way. And now you know I certainly love, like I said, that every possible piece of music is at is practically just a click away. That's pretty extraordinary. I don't think it's for me to say, like, again, one experience is better than the other, but again, like to Damian's question, I always love and again, people are still putting out albums, but you tell me, the two of you, and especially
I
Jake,
would I would say that
yeah, I don't think
I
people
would say that it kind of I would always say albums. But when you think about it, it has to be a good album, because to me what a good album is when like I don't really know how to explain. I've talked about this with Damien before, but it has a certain sound to it. You can hear a song. Okay, so like imagine an artist with two different albums, and you hear a song from album A and a song from album B. Well, this song from album B would never fit on album A and vice versa. So I would pick an album every day over a playlist, but sometimes a bad album could almost sound like you're listening to a playlist. If it's just literally all over the place, it almost sounds as if you're listening to a playlist. So to me, my favorite albums sound like albums, because that's my opinion. That's how I feel about the music. But I would pick an album. But just I was thinking about that and I was like, that's kind of true though. Like some albums almost sound like playlists to me, and you can almost make a playlist that sounds like an album, but obviously it wouldn't be an album. But yeah, I would pick albums. There's something about listening to an album, especially when you're going on like a nice 30-minute drive and you can enjoy the majority of the songs that are being played on the album. It's a special feeling that no one can really take away from you. The memories that you build up with it. There's just something different about it.
that I think that is I wouldn't want to choose. I never thought about choosing between one or the other, but I think it's also because for decades all I knew was the album. But I think, Jacob, you bring up a great point of and I could be wrong on this. I'm curious if people who generally or who are really into music and playlists the way they're into music, maybe playlists then become an entity that, like you say, remind you of where you first heard it or that playlist. I'd be curious, since I don't, I generally just experience other people's playlists. I don't put together playlists really, but because certainly what you just said about you put on a record, and not only you're experiencing it kind of when you're listening to it, you're experiencing it, in anew, but you're experiencing potentially, if it's a special record for you, all the history of what what you, when you first heard it, or who you were with, or
I have that for a ton of albums with my favorite artists. I do this tradition where if I know my favorite artist is releasing a new album, I go to the gas station an hour or 30 minutes before, depending on what album it is, how excited I am. But I'll go to the gas station an hour or 30 minutes before, fill up my tank, and then as soon as the album comes out, I put it on my phone, throw my phone across, and I'll just drive around and listen to the album. And that way I get my own memories with the album. I know which songs I like. I don't have to worry about seeing anyone else's opinions that are like, this is good, this is bad, because that's an easy way to get your opinions skewed. But that's my favorite way of forming some of my early memories with albums. Like I think memories with albums are what separates favorite, like really your favorite albums from just like great albums. Because I can tell you albums that I enjoy. I can tell you albums that I'm like, okay, to me this is like one of the best albums I've ever heard. And maybe not because of the sound musically, like maybe this album musically sounds better than this one, but this one appeals to me because of the memories I have with it, and therefore it would be my favorite.
What's a recent, or even, what's a record that comes to mind that you've done that fairly recently with?
That I like driven around to and listened to. In 2020, I have to say it was an album by Big Sean called Detroit 2. I had just moved to San Diego, and so it was my very first time doing that tradition, because I usually do it here in Sacramento. But it was my first time being in San Diego. And so I didn't really know where I was driving. I was just kind of driving to get lost and listening to this at the same time. And so it was a ton of new experiences, but I just remember like it was a really good album and it didn't let me down. It didn't disappoint in my eyes. So I still like listened to those songs, and I remember the exact moment, like the exact spot on the freeway, the exact spot, the exact stoplight I was at, and I will know exactly. And I have that memory with a lot of albums too. But I think it just appeals because it's the love for music. I mean, it's just how it is. But yeah, I mean, I'd say that's probably the most recent one that I've driven around to and really enjoyed, that I can look back on and be like, yeah, that was a special moment.
Music's really fun to listen to in a car.
Mm.
Something very transformative about that. Love it. You just get surrounded by the music too. It's one of the best places to really hear it, I think. Damn, it's crazy. We are really just blowing through these podcasts. We have 10 minutes on the clock. Real quick, Marty, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Baldwin, Long Island.
Long Island. Okay, man. That's dope. I didn't know that. And then I wanted to tap back on a couple points there. I definitely agree with you both in terms of albums. Like you got to listen to the album from start to finish. 100%. And I also agree with you, Marty. Total bullseye with greatest hits. No disrespect, but what I would encourage anyone who loves greatest hits, find what your favorite songs are on those greatest hits, and then go do your homework and find the albums that those songs came from. Because chances are, if one of those songs are your favorite joints on the greatest hits, like number 7, whatever that might be, find that record, and I bet you that band was on that same tip, that same wavelength, and you're going to find other stuff on that album that's incredible. And then you get to experience that from start to finish as well. So you can really tap into what the band or what the artist was saying. And it's just a greater experience, you know? I really do believe that. The Eagles' greatest hits, I want to say, is one of the greatest selling greatest hits projects of all time. I think the number 1 is Bob Marley's Legends.
Right.
But I think the Eagles actually might be the number 2 most sold greatest hits album of all time. And not that that really means anything, oh, it's got to be the best or anything. But, it's just something to note. There's something to be said there, Jacob, about that being a particular vinyl for your stranded island occasion. But yeah, man, find those joints on that record, that vinyl that you love, and then go find those joints on the album.
I mean, I promise you I have. It's just I have the good memories with that, so that's what would make me on that island be happy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And no, it is what it is. That's at the same time, who am I to judge what you pick to bring on that.
No, but you are 100% right though. Like off a greatest hits, you should find the album. I mean, it's kind of like when you're first getting into an artist, like, oh, if you like this song, then you should listen to the rest of their discography, because I guarantee you this isn't the only good album or songs that they've ever made. Like you guys bring up a great point. Like it's 100% true.
It's also if you somehow found the band through because they got, you know, an album became popular, it's you know, it can go any which way, but often then you go back and, you know, if it's not their debut album, if they have a number of records before they kind of really came into public view, you're like, oh wow,
Yeah,
oh look at this stuff, oh look at this. Yeah.
exactly.
And that's my favorite too as a music lover. I always loved what the artist was doing before they went really big, because you can always tap into something there. You can always see the birth of their journey. And, you know, artists change. A lot of people get mad at artists because they change and they want the same thing. But then that artist is like, well, then go listen to the old. You know, it's like, you don't even need to be here in this conversation. You know, you like the old Kanye, go listen to the old Kanye.
I mean, I'm interested, you know, for Jacob as a younger person to comment on this, because I think somewhere connected to this, and I'm curious your experience too, Damon. You know, when I was, you know, I mean, certainly when I was a teenager, you know, in a real important time of being exposed to music, and it was all vinyl, and then I think it was really CDs really came when I was in college. Anyway, but so the act of first finding an artist that you really liked, and then going to the used record shop often, or you know, a really good, you know, record shop, whatever
Mhm.
was used, new, and sort of discovering in that way other records, like, oh, I didn't even know this record, or oh, there's this, or you know, there's this live record, or there's this, you know, so many different, to me, that tactile experience, again, I'm not not ever saying, oh, back in my day it was much better or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm just saying it was so connected to the discovery, and then going, oh, I'm going, and I just picked up, you know, 5 Stevie Wonder records, you know, because
Yeah.
you know, that I didn't know existed or whatever. And the discovery of them, and then checking them out, and then having them, it's all sort of part. I'm just curious, like, how that translates in your experience.
I'll tell you from my view, I've always gone to record stores. This is for me personally, but I know a lot of people who haven't. Like, Dimple Records just went out of business, I think, like across all of America before the pandemic happened. But I used to have a Dimple Records store 2 minutes away from where I lived, and I used to always go there, and I used to always look at the CDs. And like I had mentioned earlier, I kind of have a little tiny bit of a CD addiction. Um, and I think that helped me discover a lot of new songs from artists like Sinatra. I had the greatest hits, but then I was like, you know, if he has these, like, he definitely has more music. And I was only 16. And so I was like, you know what? I remember I bought 2 Sinatra CDs. I don't remember specifically which ones. They're in my car. That I'm obviously not near right now, but I had found a few songs that I liked. But in today's age of music, with people my age and in my group, they look to their Discovery Weekly on Spotify or Apple. And I think the whole art of going out of your way and going to a store to find new music or seek new music, I think it's kind of dying because everything's so digital that people don't really appreciate CDs and vinyls or even 8 tracks for what that's worth, even though there's like a pretty distant thing. Because like when I grew up, I've told Damien this before, my dad used to have one of those burner CD discs off iTunes where he made like a Motown playlist, and then he would have like another like classic rock playlist, but they were all like a custom playlist almost. And so that's what my CD love originated from, because to me that's my home roots of like, oh, CDs, they're amazing, because those were my very first memories of loving music. So that's just for me. But I think it is dying with people my age. I think they look to Spotify, they look to Apple Music or whatever they use, and they look for these playlists that for people to like show them what good music is, rather than actually going out, taking a risk and actually listening to something with an what is not an open mind, but like a positive mindset, like hoping that they have like good music, if that makes sense.
For me, I did a lot of my vinyl shopping in New York City. I don't know if I ever took you to this spot, Marty, right around the corner from the Public Theater. It was on the other side of Lafayette.
Other music?
No, other music was closer towards the public. You had to go to another block down on the other one. They shut that one down, right? And then they shut down. I think I actually may have went there with you and Stu on my birthday, and then Stu bought me a bunch of CDs.
That sounds
Remember that time?
Yeah.
And there was a performance that day, and I think the students came by. It was like a school show, one of our more memorable shows, I think, because of course the crowd was crazy. We got 60 seconds on the clock, gentlemen. I can't even finish this story right here. Do we do another round?
Yeah, you gotta finish the story.
Okay.
I want to know what ended up happening.
I'll finish this story. It's New York City. It is 2015, I believe. It was 2015, maybe 2016. I think it was 2015. No, it was 2016. It was summer. So other music was on Bond Street, right?
Okay. Could be.
And the next block over off of Lafayette is Great Jones. Remember Great Jones Cafe? Of course, you're still in New York. I'm talking to you like like I'm an old timer in New York or some shit. You remember Great Jones Cafe? No, I'll just shut up. So on that street though, that was my spot. That's where my record store was. And I honestly cannot remember what the name of the record store was, but I do know that it was a dual store. One side it was high end speakers and like vinyl players and stuff and headphones, and on the other side there was the vinyl side. And the cat that used to work there often sold me a lot of those records that are now in my collection somewhere in LA, hopefully. Dear God, I hope they're still there. That's Ramsey. Ramsey is the brother of the late great ODB, Old Dirty Bastard, from Wu-Tang. And I just remember going in there and he would be spinning stuff and he would put me on new things. He put me on to jazz. He put me on to world music. He put me on to some hip hop. He put me on to some dope stuff, man. And he would sell me on any vinyl, really, and I would just get it. A lot of the times I would grab vinyls by artwork or by interest, by instrumentation, by the year. And it was just an incredible experience just going in there. I really do miss that. I really do miss that addiction as expensive and troubling as it was. I do miss it. I used to actually at the public theater, I would bring a lot of my vinyls back and put them right in front of my little dressing area and line them up. Great, great memories of that. In fact, that there's a picture somewhere in my phone of some vinyls stacked up that I copped from that store. One of the vinyls is The Incredible True Story by the homie Bob. And it was like a limited edition version that I have. So it's just the disc, the actual vinyl. It's not even like the case. The artwork is pressed on the vinyl. For me, it's all about the artwork, man. You know, like Jacob was saying earlier, so many of today's youth doesn't really know the true experience of finding an album, falling in love with an album because they're playing these Spotify playlists, this and that, and they don't really take the time or get the time to really enjoy it or capture what the artist was saying. And for me, it was so much about that artwork, which is what would get me to pick that vinyl up. And when you're holding up this beautiful Sun Ra, or you're holding up this beautiful Flying Lotus record, something about it just has a little bit more weight, and you attach to the story and you get a bit more committed to it. You know, holding Bob's record, even like beautiful thing, you know, your homie's record, and it's special stuff. And jumping off of what you were saying earlier, Marty, I don't know if this answers your tangent, but I have to explore the entire discography of an artist and their legacy. And I will often start at the beginning. I may have already said this, but that's where I look, and I'll work my way up. I always find that the early stuff is better than the new stuff. It's kind of rare that you find a band who's like, oh yeah, that 10th album though. By the time they got there, it was off the chain. Of course, Kid Cudi, his new record, many would argue that it's his greatest record of all time. And
What a great feeling when that happens. You know, if you've been really into an artist or a band for a while, and and it's a great feeling to experience a new record and sort of boldly say, wow. I mean, putting aside whether ranking of records, but we all rank, and it's fine. It's cool.
It is a great feeling.
I like again back to the hypocrisy of everything. You know, I I like to say don't rank, and then everything is ranked for me. So
right.
But yeah, but it's a great feeling to be like, oh my gosh, I think they totally transcended, or they totally went. You know.
There's nothing more enjoyable than getting a good album out of one of your favorite artists. When your artist delivers, it might even be more enjoyable than George Lucas giving you what you wanted.
Going
taking a step back. Yeah. Taking a step back, you know, you reference basketball. I reference Star Wars.
Yeah, it's because I was gonna, you know, again, I've been trying to be disciplined in not forcing basketball in there, but when you just said that, again, because it's for many reasons, because it's one of my favorite art forms as well. You know, teams and players can give you that similar feeling, that similar.
Marty, who's your favorite basketball team by chance?
It's a team called the Brooklyn Nets.
I was just about to say,
well, you're probably head over heels. I watched their game.
So that's what I'm sorry. So I'm sorry. I'm bringing.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you, Marty. I'm a Kings fan. I have nothing to look forward to. I'm rooting for the Nets.
No, Halliburton's got.
Oh, he's amazing. No, Halliburton.
Oh, now we're totally taking this. I set myself
that door
because Damian, I don't know if you've. I don't know. It's weird. I was trying to go back into my Damian memory bank and think about if we've talked about basketball or because I profess ignorance as to what your level of engagement is, because I'm as Jacob clearly understands now, I'm coming into this high on basketball, and I've for 3 segments now just decided again try my best to stay in in this moment, in your moment. But
I had
it finally, you gave me an opening because the artistry of certain basketball players and a team can give that same feeling of when your favorite artist or a band you love drops a great record. There, I've connected the two.
And I was gonna say, Marty,
Yeah.
to your curiosity in retrospect,
Yeah.
might I add, I'm the type of cat who knows what's going on.
Okay.
I know Kyrie just went over there. But am I watching those games? No. Have I seen a single game this season? Absolutely not.
You should start, and then we should, talk about that.
I agree.
No, I knew the second we opened up this door, you two were gonna have a little bit of fun with it because I know Jacob.
We can take it offline if you want.
I know Jacob's a ball head, but it's funny
I could
because
talk about basketball forever.
season 1's host Brandon David is a huge basketball cat too. So we always get that one special guest who comes in, and then they start talking basketball, and I just kind of go in my corner and just kind of, hide in the shadows a little bit.
I waited till the fourth.
I mean, you knew about Kyrie.
And I also knew that Brooklyn Nets were Marty's favorite team. And I would also like to add,
I kind of pieced it together.
That's good, Jake.
Might I add, Barclays Center is one of the greatest venues that I've ever had the opportunity to perform at. Beautiful.
That's that email you found recently from me, right? Or the text, or yeah.
That's right. Have we been there twice? So I may have been there twice. But yes.
Jacob,
recently, Marty sent me an email. Well, not recently. When I was playing that venue, I had the opportunity. Shout out Bob to go on tour and do that show. Marty had sent me an email, and somewhere within the endless amounts of Postmates and Lyft receipts and whatever, I don't know, I just happened to stumble upon Marty's email recently, and I think that's kind of how we reconnected. Perhaps we spoke over the holidays, and it was such a great conversation. I was like, Marty, you should come on the podcast, man. I love you. You're the so why don't you come on and hang out, catch some vibes.
I wanted to, there was I thought a really a cool thread that we got on to a few segments ago, and then we went another way. But now you're giving me an opening to, which is about, we're all like missing connection, right, in this time, right? But, and Damian, you and I, as we said, we had, not to get sappy, but some really special times, like special memories that,
yeah, man.
for a few years, and then, things happen, things go the way. And when we reconnected, I remember saying, like, life happens, you have friends, you have lifelong friends, you have different friends, and things go, and sometimes you don't see people for years, or, people will go different ways. And I was like, but, Damian, that's someone I want in my life, forgive the honest, feelings.
I appreciate that. That makes
me
feel very warm.
What I was connecting it back to was, I don't know when we would have reconnected, if not for having to, it's not like we would have let, who knows, we would have reconnected somehow, some way, somehow. And again, as you said, we've all had to slow down, reevaluate, do a lot of, approach every day in a different way than we might have imagined. So I don't know where I'm going, just bring it around to be connecting on Zoom. That's a bright light,
Well, that's what they call that synchronicity. 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 Is that how it goes? I gotta check that album out. Actually, I do remember that album art. I think Pops might have even had the CD because Pops was a big Sting fan. Pops loved Sting and the Police. Hands up, don't shoot. Just just off, very off. But I do remember combing through my dad's CDs. He had a massive CD collection, and I'm almost more than positive now. That's how I know that album. That's how I know that album art because he had it, and he loves Sting and the Police. He loves what's my man's name? What's my man's name? Joe Cocker. He loves some Joe Cocker. And as far as that goes, that might be as light as he gets as far as the brothers goes on that spectrum of the music. If my brothers here know what I'm saying, otherwise he's pretty dark when it comes to his music palette. And it's funny because in a way I feel like my dad kind of engineered me into thinking there's white music and there's black music. And I remember being in whatever grade, middle school or whatever, and him kind of taking note and giving me that look like, oh, you're listening to white music. But he was wrong. You were wrong, Dad. Music is blind. Music has no colors. It's inevitable. No, it is what it is. Music is completely colorblind. Ozzy Osbourne was my true inspiration, but it's funny because I say all that, and here goes that hypocrisy again, because he loves some motherfucking Joe Cocker. He loves some Joe Cocker, and he loves some. What was the first? Sting and the Police. He loves Sting and the Police. But of course, those are brothers. Like in my eyes, Joe Cocker he might as well be Joe Brown. You know what I'm saying? Whatever. I don't even know where I'm going. See, I get off the tangent sometimes too, Marty. I just get going and we're riffing here. And this is what it is. Jacob, how is before I cut you off, how is your current mental health? And then why don't you go ahead and pick up on what you were going to say and then answer my question?
My mental health is good. I just want to say real quick, we've been talking about the Police so much. I think I'm gonna have Roxanne stuck in my head for the rest of like the next week, because whenever I think of the Police, I think of Roxanne immediately. Don't know why, but I do. My mental health is actually it's going extremely well right now. Honestly, I don't have much on my mind for anything like loads of stress or anything like that, and I've been focusing a lot lately on living in the moment, as I said earlier. Um, Honestly, I've been making a lot of music, which makes me extremely happy because I was talking to my dad about this the other day. He was talking. He was like, I don't know. He was like, we were talking about my future, and he said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, I'm just so creative. I don't know what I want to do. I have so many spectrums and routes I could go. But one thing in my life that I look back on as a pattern that's consistently made me happy is just music. Like ever since I was a kid, and I always tell them that we would be in our car when I was 5 years old, listening to whatever we were listening to now, and it's like the only thing that really has consistently always made an impact on me and made me happy. So I've been doing that, and it's been making me super, super, super happy. I've been investing a lot in just living in the moment too, loving my friends and family in real life, like Damian had said earlier, like the ones inside these walls, and just really trying my best to just live every day, just live my days out and not worry about the future. Because I'd hate to get to a place in the future where I'd be there and be like, wow, I wish I would have lived more in the moment when I was actually getting to the spot. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do right now. But my mental health so far 2021 is off to a good start. Marty, how's your mental health?
I think I feel very fortunate. You know, I've said that a lot over the last year, and that is really the first thing that comes to my mind. I feel really fortunate. I feel grateful for my family and friends. Um, and I feel fortunate to, same as yourself, still being making music. That is certainly, um, you know, a big part of it. But yeah, I think it's connecting with people, and I feel like there's just, you know, I think there's been a ongoing effort. I think a group effort, community effort, as you know, just sort of thinking off the top of my head, for everyone to check in on everyone else in a way, in whatever, you know, in small circles and bigger circles, and you know, and I love connecting with people in all sorts of ways, and there's ways that that's been totally cut off, you know, again, which has been certainly, if I will, you know, I'm focusing on that, you know, that's certainly sad, or you feel that emptiness. But I think, again, I think there's an ongoing challenge, like almost like hour to hour, day to day, of like, I think you both sort of allude to this, like you feel certain things, you have ups and downs, but hopefully, again, it comes back to feeling fortunate for me, again, because of my family, because of my friends, because of music, because of basketball, because of exercise. That's another way that really, to me, I connect with keeping the mental health up. So again, with all that, it's a hard question to sum up. It's a again, it's like an hourly, daily challenge. And again, what I keep coming back to is the things I feel grateful for.
It is a hard question to sum up, isn't it? Isn't it a never-ending question? It always seems like it's going. That's the difference between physical health and mental health. I think physical health, once you get it to that neutral position, you don't even think about it. You're not even really conscious of it. Of course, me right now, I have this crick in my neck, and it has been there. It's funny. I used to talk to Marty about cricks in my necks and shit in my back because we're flying all over around the world, touring and doing gigs and stuff. And my frame is not the greatest on the rug and tug bandwagon lifestyle. I remember Marty actually telling me something that his brother-in-law once taught him about how there's this pain, and it's there on the back of your neck, but it's really not actually there. It's you just acknowledge it, and then okay, it's there, but you just let it go. Very similar to meditation. Something that stuck with me. Funny that you're sitting right here. Do you remember that conversation?
Well, yeah, it wasn't my brother-in-law, but it's a famous doctor, or a doctor that I I published books and.
Oh, it was a doctor.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I remember. See, that's funny how my brain just created. It was his brother-in-law that told him that. That's funny. I don't know why that happened. But yeah, that physical health and that mental health, so different. And it's so easy to confuse the two at the same time. But you're right, Marty. That conversation never really stops. That question never really stops. You're always battling something in terms of your mental situation. It's just so nice that it's finally becoming a conversation by the masses. I mean, maybe not the masses, but it's becoming a more popular conversation to speak on mental health. And 10 years ago, it almost didn't even exist. It wasn't even really a phrase, mental health. I don't remember hearing that word when I was in college, or that combination of words, I should say. And now it's so evident that everyone is dealing with this. Of course, the pandemic amplifies all of that, right? So for me, my mental health has been okay lately. And my biggest challenge mentally has been time, and not the time and the dilemma that I spoke on earlier that I was experiencing mid 2020, but just time on a more short term basis. I just want to accomplish things, and I set goals in my mind, and I get really busy just from living life. And sometimes I don't accomplish what I want to accomplish. And I get a little bit upset about that with myself because I want to be more productive. I want to be more creative. I want more output. And it almost seems like it's a bit easier to get distracted in this environment, being stuck in these doors, more so than it would be when I could just go to a studio and lock in, you know.
Well, is it also that, again, there's a lot less there's a lot less shape to your time, right? So in oddly, you could feel like, oh, I have all this time in one place, and so I should be able to get all this stuff done. But we're kind of used to, in whatever we do, as, oh, our schedule, and today we're going here, and we're going to be here, and we're going to be here. And in a way, sometimes when you have less time, you can be more productive because you got to fit it, you got to squeeze it, you got to fit it into that smaller space, and then you got to go do that thing, and then you got to come back. You know what I'm saying? So I think our brains are still adjusting, or have been adjusting all year, to a different pace and a different shape. I don't know.
What's the typical schedule for Marty Beller in 2021?
Like right now, what the typical schedule is?
On a Wednesday or a Tuesday?
Yeah. Get up, feed the cat, do the exercise routine, have a massive protein shake.
What time do you exercise?
At first, it's usually 8:30, 9:30 sometimes.
How long is your exercise?
It's generally somewhere between like 30 and 45 minutes.
How large is the protein shake?
The protein shake is about this large. Yes.
Wow.
Is that to scale? Is that, yeah.
Very consumable.
And you're vegan, right, Marty?
I am. Yes.
Do you use the vegan protein?
I do. Yes, I do.
That stuff's good. It's really good.
Yeah.
You're not vegan, are you, Jacob?
No, but I still use vegan protein.
Okay. What are the benefits of vegan protein for me and the listeners out there?
I mean, it's just, there's not much research on like actual proteins, but I feel like vegan protein is a lot healthier for your body. I just feel Like it's a lot more not. It just feels healthier. I don't know how to explain it because for me, I've always tried to gain weight and I've tried like mass gainers and regular protein shakes. And they always made my body just feel so out of sorts. Like I can't even explain it. It just felt so it was just bad.
Interesting.
But when I went and switched to vegan protein, um I just remember like I felt completely fine. I was still getting the same benefits, and I don't know. There's not really a problem with vegan protein either. It's basically it's doing the same thing.
Right.
I don't see the downsides of it.
Just curious. I didn't know if it
Yeah.
was like a certain thing, like
No, it's all
right in the water.
It would go, it would go along with a whole conversation about the vegan diet and the whether you're into that or not.
Well, we'll save that for the next podcast.
Yeah.
So you just finished your workout. You had your tall protein shake. Now what?
Down to the studio.
Straight down.
Right here. Yeah. Right here where I am. Yeah.
And how long you locked in?
Well, off, generally, depending on what's going on, if, it might be some other family stuff that has to happen, but generally to like 6 or 7. But, there's a lot of other stuff that has to be done.
So you're probably down there by 10 a.m. and you're going to try and stay in there.
10 or 11. Sometimes, sometimes between the exercising, the shake is the shake is no small endeavor, even though I absolutely love it. It's I love that part of the day. So sometimes I'm like, gosh darn it, it's like 11:30 and I still haven't gotten myself together. But yeah, that would, I'd love to get down here by 10 or 11 for sure.
Which reminds me, pardon my interruption, Jacob, bananas. Marty, tell me if this is true or not.
Oh boy. Okay.
I don't know if I'm going crazy.
Okay.
But did you send me an opportunity maybe in 2014, 2015 that was children's music related?
2012. I just found the track. I have
You did that.
2012 before
Were we talking about this recently?
I think we talked about it on the phone.
Because I hit up the other Marty like last week, like yelling at him, like, bro, what are you talking about? Like, the other Marty.
No, what other Marty?
Marty that plays flute. Marty from Philadelphia tour. Glasses.
Mike
McGinnis. Why am I calling him Marty?
I was like, I for a moment I was like horrified that I hate the idea of getting someone. Yeah, Mike. Mike and Marty.
I'm just all over the place right now.
Okay, yeah.
I thought his name was. I know his name is Mike, but for whatever reason, I'm hitting him up in the DMs like, "Yo, what are you talking about? I know we did that ABC joint."
Yeah, you reminded me. It's because it's so weird because we didn't know each other. Stu recommended you, and I sent you the tracks, and you sang over them. We were, considering all sorts of different things. What ended up happening is, well, it was, I can go into the whole project if you want, but what was I going to say? So that was before we knew each other. And then when we were doing the show together in 2016, you reminded me and it kind of like blew my head apart.
It's amazing. Yeah, I need that.
You were like, I sent, remember I sent you those tracks? And it just was like the Damian that sent me those tracks. And you were just, it was like, I was like, oh gosh, oh my God, hey. Thank you.
Amazing. Do you still do children's music out of curiosity?
I do, whatever. If I'm trying to think well, whatever. Yes, well, yes, for sure. What am I talking about? I actually just produced. I'm like, yeah, I'm trying to think, because it's like, whatever project comes along,
Mm-hmm.
whoever's, wanting to work with me, that's what I'm excited to do. That what you're talking about, um, uh, was a project for the company Scholastic, which was this project where I had to write songs for every letter of the alphabet, and then I had to write songs for all kinds of grammar stuff, kind of a Schoolhouse Rock thing. Um, and so what ended up happening there was I ended up doing all the male vocals, and Issa Davis ended up doing all the female vocals. So I actually, all the male vocals were all the songs about each letter in the alphabet, and the female vocals were all the grammar songs, and then we sang the theme song together. But anyway, I just produced a record that's coming out in February by a kids artist. It's, I believe, our third or fourth record together, Stacy Peasley, which I'm really excited about. They're actually playing her songs on like Sirius Radio and that kind of stuff.
Oh man, that's
Really great kids artist out of Boston, Boston area. So yeah, that's that. So yeah, kids music, grown up music, whatever I want to do.
I've been bugging out in the twilight zone of my brain lately. Like, who did I do that with? And I've been trying to rediscover those files. Do you have those files?
I have the files.
I
I
would
found
love
them.
to hear that.
I looked for them. I found them after we spoke recently. Yeah.
Oh, please send them over. And I have to play you the album still.
Oh yes,
That'll be
yes.
our
You
fair
promised
trade.
that. Yes, that was promised.
Yeah, I got you. I got you.
It's amazing.
Very fun stuff. Yeah, I'm sorry, Jacob. I know me and Marty have just been
Yeah,
you're good.
like
You're good.
gnats.
Don't worry.
That's kind of how our brains work. I think that's why we're kind of so close. I think we both have a very sporadic internal rhythm to the way our ideas and thoughts shoot off. But that was the bananas. I was like, I gotta ask about this because I need that. I need to hear that. No, that's amazing. Music is amazing. Whether it's for the little ones, whether it's for the middle ones, or whether it's for the grown ones. Doesn't matter who it's for, People like to move. People like to hear something. It's amazing how people react to music. It's amazing what music can do. And that's why we're all here today. Fellas, the three of us, the truth of all of this, what really brought us together wasn't Bob or Stu, even though it was, but it was music. We're here because we all love music. And this is Music and Mental Health, episode 25. Had an excellent time with our special guest, Marty Beller. Thank you so much for coming down. It's a great conversation. You'll definitely have to come back again.
Anytime. This was such a blast. Such a blast.
That's cool, man. No, that's really cool. We really appreciate you taking time out to hang out with us. I'm sure you have a full plethora of to-dos on your list. Jacob, any last words for the world out there?
I got one question for Marty. I know the viewers are gonna have this question. Marty,
Keep
what's
in
the
mind
first-
we have 2 minutes on the clock. Pardon my
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
interruption. I hate to say it.
Marty, from on behalf of the listeners and I, what's the first thing you're doing when the Nets win the finals this year?
I will not even address that question. I'm excited for the next game against the Cleveland Cavaliers. One game at a time. I know it's a cliche that the players use, but for my own fanaticism, mental health, because you can't believe what a crazy person I am as a fan. What an emotional roller coaster I put myself through. I'm excited for the next game, but I'm hoping that I'll be able to answer that question for you sometime in the future.
That's amazing. Well, hopefully each game at a time leads them to the finals. And to the listeners listening who've made it this far, thank you. We love you guys so much. Thank you for supporting. And we hope to see you on episode 26.
Indeed. Episode 26 coming at you. I have nothing else to say except Marty and Jacob, stay Marty and Jacob, because you both are amazing people, and I really enjoyed this conversation. I hope anyone out there listening is inspired by this conversation, and I hope anyone out there listening pushes forward to continue the important conversation, not just about music, but also on mental health. We got to talk about it, right? This is what we're doing. One love, ladies and gentlemen, one love.